Do you like good, well thought out, unique videos? Well, what about cheesy ripoffs of already established video concepts with the goal of appeasing the YouTube algorithm gods to try to justify the hundreds of hours I spend poorly making boxes move across a screen instead of doing things that normal adults would do, like have a social life, or improve their career, or generally feel satisfied about where they are in life? Because this video is definitely one of those two things.
I don't know if I like this game.
Dude, you don't think... Dude, after this game... What the fuck is this? I might bring a keyboard. I actually might need another keyboard.
No! No!
What am I supposed to do?
So for those of you who are unaware, there's this trend in game development where a developer will start on a project, work on it for a few hours, and then give it to someone else without saying a word to them. And that second developer is expected to pick up where they left off, build the game that they think is being made, work on it for a few hours, pass it off to a third developer, and so on and so on. If you want to see a video of this done well, check out Blackthorn Prod's YouTube channel. But it's always been a video idea that I've wanted to try to rip off, shamelessly copy. You get the picture. So what we're doing today is, instead of a developer passing it to another developer, I'm going to have my friends tell me exactly what to make. They won't get any context where the game is supposed to be, and I'm not allowed to do anything that they don't tell me to. Now, you may think this is going to be too easy because, well, there's only one developer, so I can kind of make it all make sense. But I think there's three things that will make this somewhat interesting. One, I'm incredibly forgetful. Two, I love to procrastinate, which really feeds into the first thing. And three, the last projects I've made have been made with the goal of making my friends angry because...
This is impossible!
Okay, bro. Alright. You added in the fucking crunching sound effect, huh?
Well, I think it's funny. So I guarantee you that they're going to, even if they understand the game, do whatever they can to screw me over and make my life miserable. So without any further ado, let's get started on this train wreck just waiting to happen.
So I am thinking combat central game against waves of enemies. It's like a top-down, easy, like WASD move. As instead of picking up stuff and leveling up, you just level up and you like go into different trees, right? So like then you get to level 3 and you get to choose between keep going into pistol, there's your weapon tree, and then you have your base tree that like I think that'd be a sweet game to play.
So with a laundry list of tasks that would take a normal developer weeks to complete, and me, well, a couple of years, I got to work. My plan for these development sessions was to speed through as many systems as I could in as little time as possible, really just to get all the concepts down on paper and just hope that someone refined the existing systems later on down the line. So I started Nate's project by adding a box that can move, and for the sake of simplicity, we'll call this object the player, because it's the player. I then made a box that follows the mouse that can shoot little bullets, and I then made more boxes that disappeared when they collided with the bullet. Now, since Nate had mentioned a fully in-depth talent tree that I definitely wasn't going to have time for, I at least did what I could to make sure as many values as possible were able to be modified. So we might not have a talent system now, but at least the groundwork's there, so eventually we can do something with it. I wrapped up these 90 minutes by adding an experience counter to the player that increments every time one of the enemy boxes disappears, and I added in a shotgun type effect that definitely worked as intended. Besides, I'm sure someone will notice these bugs and will definitely tell me to fix them.
What I'm thinking is those objects that can be hit by the projectiles, make them not disappear, and if you run into them, you lose. They will just keep spawning and chasing you. So basically, you're making your own sort of maze.
This is like an advanced snake.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So your goal is to not get surrounded and not touch anything. They could also drop like different buffs, whether it's increasing your attack speed.
So Bill's projects were actually fairly easy. I have worked a little bit with enemy pathing in the past, so I repurposed some old code that uses a navigation agent that allows the enemies to pathfind to the player. Now, this came with its own set of issues. Primarily, the object that is pathing to the player needs to know where it can walk, and since currently this is an infinitely generated game, well, I can't just make a box that's infinitely large. And if the box isn't large enough, when the enemies get to the edge of their walkable zone, well, they'll just stand still forever. So I had to come up with some type of solution. Now, old me would have just made a box so large that no human could feasibly walk to the end of it without just getting bored and closing the game. But I'm a changed man. I don't half-ass things anymore. I like 3/4 ass things now, which is better. So what I did was I made the walkable area a child of the player node, so it moves along with the player. This caused its own set of problems because, well, the player moves faster than the enemies, which is needed because if it didn't happen that way, well, the game would probably be impossible. So what I did to fix this is add a flag that would trigger if any enemies left the walkable region, and I would just teleport them closer to the player, so all of the enemies will at least get reused and will always have somewhere to walk. It does mean that you can really never technically outrun an enemy, but that's a problem for the players and not for me. Anyway, I wrapped up Bill's 90 minutes by removing the code that made the enemies disappear when they died and just left them as static sprites on the map. Now, I'm going to surprise most of you here when I say I did have a little bit of foresight, and I disabled pretty much all of the physics calculations, pretty much every single calculation that's related to the enemy when they're in this frozen state. The only thing that remains active is the ability to detect if a player runs into them. So with that done, I had about 10 minutes left, and Bill mentioned he wanted some type of power-ups. So I implemented the one that he had mentioned, which is the bullet piercing, and then I started working on a little UI so the players could pick which power-ups they wanted. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to actually finish that UI, but I'm sure someone will pick up where Bill left off.
Different enemy types. It comes back to life, and every time you freeze it, it gets faster. Can I recommend a type of mechanic that introduces a hard timer to it to give you a like an end point? Can you make it so enemy models can't collide? So like they don't stack up on.
So they can collide, you mean?
Yeah.
So they bump into each other?
Yes. I want puddles around the map that just are slowing. Just random generated, like areas that avoid that slow you down. Oh, another enemy type. I want one enemy that's got 5 health or like 10 health. You know what? No. Like 50 health, an enemy with 50 health that resists penetration up to 2. So if you're penetration 3, you only do 1 damage to it with a minimum value of 1. So I want a durable enemy type.
Okay, I'm not your parents, so I'm not gonna lie to you. I conceptually knew how to use some type of Perlin noise, which for those of you who don't know is an algorithmically generated cloud-looking texture to generate randomized maps. But other than knowing those buzzwords, I really didn't know where to start. So I spent most of Garrett's time just watching a tutorial to try to figure out how to do that. But in general, this is a really good concept for me to know. So Garrett may not have gotten all the features that I wanted in this game, but I learned something. So that's what's important to me because I'm a narcissistic asshole. Anyway, the process for using this Perlin noise to generate a map boiled down to using some built-in functions to generate this pattern. And then for each 16 by 16 square, we applied a tile to it based on the color of the noise in that area. It essentially turned into an incredibly simple color by number. Not like the cool ones that are kind of complex, you know, like the ones they give to adults, the ones that you would give to a child to keep them busy. So imitating a child's activity took the better part of an hour, so I didn't really have much time left to do the rest of Garrett's requests. So I ended up only having enough time to apply a slow to the character if they were on a slow tile. I was also able to check the box that would allow enemies to collide with each other, and I made 2 new enemies, one that didn't actually die when you shot it, it would come back to life, and another one that had a stupid amount of health and a stupid amount of damage reduction, which is really good game design, and I'm sure everyone's gonna absolutely love that one, especially when there's currently no way to increase your damage.
So I'm picturing turning this game into a farming simulator. So the randomly generated map will have areas of land that can be farmed on and areas of map that are just mud, and those will be the slow areas. And so you have to kill enemies on the farmable land. During the first wave is just killing enemies. And then subsequent waves, you have to collect the enemies you killed on the last wave and kill new enemies on this wave. And then we'll add one more enemy type that when killed plants poison ivy. It can only do that on farmable land, but when it does happen, that land will no longer be farmable And if you step on it in future waves, you will die.
One thing you need to know about Sam is he's the person that I normally have playtest the games I make, and I normally bounce a lot of the ideas for these games off of him, so he generally knows how long it takes me to do certain things. So when he gave me a project that seemed somewhat manageable, I was honestly surprised because I thought he would try to screw me over. That was until it took me 45 minutes to figure out how to replace the solid squares that I had for the slow tiles with randomized real tiles. Programmatically working with tile maps is going to be the bane of my existence for as long as I keep game development as a hobby. So Sam may not have knowingly screwed me over, but he unknowingly made me waste a significant amount of time to something that probably shouldn't have. Luckily, making harvestable plants was fairly easy. I just added a new object to the screen with a timer on it that would change the sprite when the timer expired, added a few different stages to it, and then made it able to be picked up by the player after it reached a certain stage. And at that point, I was pretty much out of time, so I didn't have a really good chance to finish the game loop that he had described. So I rounded out his time by just creating the enemy that he wanted, which was really just a normal enemy, but instead of dropping a plant that would increase your score and progress you in the game, it just killed you immediately because, well, no one's told me to increase the player health, so that one's also going to be a hit.
Make like some uber enemies that spawn less frequently but have like times 100 the health, and they move slower, but they have an enrage where slowly over time they speed up. I would put in items that can drop on enemies that die that will spawn more dirt in an area, and then I would also put a debuff in there that like removes dirt. And then one thing that needs to be really trolly, let me think here. Put in random affixes and make them miserable sometimes. I don't know, you could put in, obviously not thundering, but do something like that. Maybe do something that's like sanguine. I don't know, I kind of want like a kiss curse is what I envision being cool. What else is there? What else really fucking pisses me off? Explosive.
So for those of you who have, what's it called? Oh yeah, a life. The affixes that he's referring to are a World of Warcraft mechanic for dungeons. Essentially, they're just extra static mechanics that exist throughout the entire dungeon. The explosive affix, for example, causes enemies to randomly spawn these little explosive orbs that will deal massive damage to your party if they aren't destroyed. Thundering is a little bit more complex, but simply put, it randomly spawns swirls on the ground that will stun you if you stand in them for too long. And the last one he mentioned, Sanguine, causes enemies to drop pools on the ground when they die that will heal enemies that are in it and damage the player if the player ends up standing in it. The problem with the requests that Travis made is he wanted to give these affixes a little bit of a benefit, when in reality these fixes just normally cause me immense amounts of physical pain. So coming up with a way to make each of them positive wasn't very easy, so I did what I do best. And I procrastinated and didn't think about it. I really just added in the affixes as they are in World of Warcraft, and I'd think of something later before the time's up, because 90 minutes is plenty of time. So I moved on and I created the enemy type that he wanted created, which is one that starts really slow, has a ton of health, but gains movement speed every frame, which is going to be really cool because no one's actually told me to fully implement power-ups yet, so getting extra movement speed and damage is not gonna happen, so I could see this being another fan favorite enemy. And by the time that was done, unfortunately due to time and creativity restraints, I really didn't have any ideas on how to make the affixes positive. The only positive affix I ended up having time to implement was for explosives, so if it explodes on its own, you take the damage. If you destroy one, then it will actually deal damage to all the enemies in the area, so it can be used as a source of AoE damage because currently there is none, so I thought that'd be a really cool addition. But unfortunately, that was all the time we had, so we had to move on to the last member of this game development chain.
I want the character to have gigantic tits. I want you to like hit a certain XP and then it's like WoW where you like get a big flash animation and the whole thing changes and then all of a sudden you're in a different map. Yeah, what about obstacles? Were there obstacles with what you were showing me before?
There were just the grass, which made you slow.
Yeah. There aren't like trees or anything?
Correct.
I think there should be trees. I want, if it's my game, I want a pet. I want to take care of a pet. Birds. No, because I don't want you to. No. Take that back. I don't want you killing birds. I don't like the bird. I don't like the bird idea. Goblins. What if you get hit once and just like a big like you're a loser flashes on the screen and then it's like just kidding, and then you go back for one time, and then the second time when you actually lose, it's just like you're actually a loser, and it's like a bunch of sirens and stuff.
You could do that.
See, my game would just be a farming simulator plus really annoying. So
Now, I have to be honest with you. In between the time that I was given this prompt and the time that I actually started working on it, something very serious happened. Something that I truly never thought would happen to me. I got addicted to Destiny 2, and one thing you need to know about me is when I say addicted, I mean addicted. So when I started working on this project again, I had absolutely completely forgot what I was supposed to be working on. Really, the only things that I remembered were new levels, give the enemies sprites, and then make people feel really bad for losing. So luckily that was enough for me to work with. So I started off by making the enemies these little vegetable characters because I felt like it fit quite well. I then made it where you can actually level up by getting a certain amount of points, which will clear the board and do nothing else other than make the enemies harder. I then recorded some voice lines to annoy and anger the people who played this game when they lose. And another thing you need to know about me is I'm a giant asshole, so it's pretty easy for me to annoy people. So I think I actually nailed that part pretty well. But unfortunately, once I recorded those voice lines, my time was pretty much up. Now, you may think I'm lying because I said I was addicted to Destiny, and you might think that I just wanted to get back to playing. I will have you know that is not true. Definitely not true. So after everything was all said and done, we had 6 people give me projects. I worked 90 minutes on each of them, brought us to about 9 hours. So I decided to spend the last hour just to really clean things up, add some sprites that weren't added, clean up the game loop so it's actually playable, and fix a few bugs. My goal was to just spend an hour cleaning up the game, not really adding any new mechanics, just improving what's already there to make the game somewhat playable. And what I ended up doing during this hour is actually finish the UI for the power-up selection, since someone wanted that back end in place, and since we now have leveling up, which makes enemies get more and more difficult, we do kind of need a way for the player to get a little bit more powerful. So I added that power-up selection, cleaned up the UI to just add some information to the screen, added a sprite to the character, as well as the different affixes that currently didn't have sprites. And with about 10 minutes left, I just copied all of the sound effects I used in the last game I made and just added those to this game because it was easy and I was out of time. And with that, the 10 hours was up and we had, well, we had something. But there was nothing left to do other than let the game designers play the game that they made all on their own with no outside help at all, because I do not want my name associated with something that has Mythic Plus affixes in it, because holy shit.
So I'm assuming this is the box thing that could move and shoot things.
That is the box, yeah.
Is this food? What the fuck is this? Mushroom?
This message is courtesy of Margaret, but you suck. Now, the game's not over. I'm just here to tell you that you got hit by a bullet, and you can press the continue button to, well, continue playing the game, but, well, based on the quality of gameplay I've seen so far, is it really worth it?
Alright, that's just rude.
What? What did I die to?
Explosive.
Explosives.
Wait, oh, I gotta kill them.
Wait, is this corn?
Yeah.
What? Oh my god. Oh my god. This game's so dumb. But so good.
Oh, I see it. Oh, wait. What?
Oh, you're dead for real this time. There is no coming
Wait,
back
I
from
thought
this
that
one.
I thought that was
Oh
you
my god, I
talking.
can't believe you got hit by that. That's embarrassing.
Do you ever think, dude, F this game. Dude, the stupid messages are actually the most annoying shit. What the fuck is this?
Wow, this is a...
This is terrible.
Oh my god, I fucking got the blaster. Got the fucking shoddy. Ah! No!
You hit the leak.
You got the leak
twice!
Oh, the overlapping.
Oh no!
Anyway, you can click the reset button.
No! No!
The affixes add a lot more than I thought they would. I thought you would just make them fucking AIDS.
Which, the slow puddles, I immediately regret. Because this spawn is actually miserable for me. What am I supposed to do? Dude, F up. Oh! Wait, did these not do damage? Oh my god!
Holy shit. Why did they all spawn? No. Leave me alone.
You live.
I'm a liver. Oh, I'm a dyer.
But
I don't know if I like this game.
The most upsetting part about all of this is the Joseph smug laugh and the Margaret. I might bring a keyboard. I actually might need another keyboard.
I genuinely didn't even see
Oh,
it.
that onion. He almost got there.
Nah,
Like,
not
I feel
even
like
close,
this is
dog.
like just a bullet hell game for them now. Like, they're the ones playing the game at this point. Oh my god, here we go.
we've almost done it.
Oh!
Oh, you're dead for real.
Died to a mushroom. The prophecy came true.
So how do you feel about the game that you directly made?
Irritated.
Are you guys happy with the game that you made?
No.
No.
I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want you to make the death sound angrier.
Angry?
And louder and more obnoxious. Not nearly as
It was-
obnoxious as I wanted it to be.